Have we heard from Councilman Polka?
He was in City Hall earlier and he said he would be here, so hopefully he's just running a little late.
He's logging in now.
Yep, there he is.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Monday, June 28th, the last meeting of June and the last meeting by Zoom. Woo! I'm really excited this will be our last time and that we will be in the council chambers the first meeting in July. So to kick us off for our meeting is the Pledge of Allegiance. And the last time we'll be in unison over the internet. All right, I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States
of America
and to the
republic for which it stands,
one
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent, thank you. Madam Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember James,
Present in Ferndale.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May,
Present in Ferndale.
Councilmember Mikulski,
Present in Ferndale.
Councilmember Polka,
Present in Ferndale.
and Mayor Piana.
Present in Ferndale. Next up is the approval of the agenda.
I move to accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved by Polka, and I'm going with second with Councilwoman James.
Okay, Councilmember James,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May,
Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski,
Yes.
Councilmember Polka,
Yep.
and Mayor Piana.
Yes. Next up is on the agenda is electronic meeting procedures. Are there any updates to this other than we're going back into the chambers? All right, with that, we're moving on to the next item, presentations. And first up on 5A tonight is our Oakland County update by Commissioner Charlie Cavell. And welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Mayor. So exciting for you all to be able to be back in person. At the county, we went back in person a couple of weeks ago, and it's amazing how much of a difference it makes to be able to like smell people's breath and stuff. You're just so happy, you know? I'm sure that'll wear off at some point, but at least now you're like, wow, you had a banana. That's great, Commissioner. Anyways, so here to give a quick update about Oakland County business. First, where we've been the last week or two. First, COVID vaccinations. If you have any questions or reservations about it, please call me at my cell phone. I'll share that information with the clerk again, but it's 248-807-4347. We're almost there. We got to get there. Oakland County has started offering a $50 Visa gift card to anyone who will get their first shot, with the commitment of also getting their second, because we want to get to 70% by July 4th or as close to July 4th as possible. So please get your shot. Second, talking about the floods, If you have questions or need help or guidance, please feel free to call me. I can connect you with Oakland County's FEMA and Emergency Management Department, but what has been recommended by Oakland County government is that we talk with our local communities. So if it's not too untoward, mayor and council and city manager, please call DPW at Ferndale if you have questions as a first step. I'm happy to share that information or walk you through what else might be helpful if you in fact have had a flood or a problem related to that. And then third thing, ARP, Oakland County, the County Democrat Commission, we're going to be starting our arguing with one another about what we should spend our ARP dollars on. So if you have any ideas, good or bad, we want to hear them, especially focused on the acute need. What can we do in the next 6 to 9 months to really help improve or at least maintain your quality of life? Again, please call, reach out with questions or recommendations. And then the last thing I'll say is at the last county commission meeting, Oakland County Commission full board passed 14-6 the Oakland County Fair Housing Initiative. So now we are going to be working with the Fair Housing Center of Metro Detroit to work with local communities like Ferndale to help pass source of income anti-discrimination ordinances. And the other thing is in committee this past week, we kind of shoehorned an amendment in there for a spending bill about workforce development to help with childcare. So this is the first investment by OakGov on childcare in this year, and this is going to be direct payment scholarships, one time only, to families that are in workforce development programs in Oakland County. If you're trying to get back to work, if you make $80,000 a year or less as of the most recent tax filing, we want to give you $1,200 so you can put your kids in childcare of any sort that then allows you to get back to work or stop being underemployed or get that raise or go back into the office. So those are big things and happy to talk more.
Thank you, Commissioner. I really love the childcare support that the county's giving. We know that we have a lack of childcare options in Ferndale and the surrounding area. So this is going to be a big help to help families get back on their feet, particularly women.
Heck yes, most definitely. And if I could just give a quick thank you to all of you who have reached out to me, especially Mayor Piana and Councilmember Mikulski, Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May, and Councilmember James for y'all talking and giving ideas, and Mayor Piana, sending your article saying this would be a really good idea. You should do this. So point taken, and hopefully you're starting to see the benefits of those seeds being planted.
Yes, thanks. That's what happens when you work with me. I send you texts about ideas. But thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate the update. All right, next up on the presentation is 5B, and it is the Ferndale Beautification Awards. And I think presenting this is going to be Commissioner Member Robin and maybe Susan.
Not sure about Susan, but I'm here.
Yay! Good to see you.
Good to see you all as well. And happy June to you all. We have been exploring different options over the last year and a half as to how to nominate and select houses. And this particular month, we actually had documents that allowed us to split up and place our votes on various areas, and it all went back to Suzanne to tabulate. It was so easy. I'm hoping that it will continue to be a success. So let's get started. Give me a second to share my screen. All right, so the June awards for the Ferndale Beautification Commission. The first winner in the northeast quadrant is 2104 Coy. This is a corner lot. It was built in 1942, and it is owned by Robin Marowski and Jason Evans. Lovely little 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. But I will have to say that Jason gets big props from us because he went on the Ferndale Beautification Commission post and went on and on raving about his wife, who did, it appears, most of the work last year when she was extremely pregnant. So a big shout out to the other Robin, not me, for doing such a wonderful job. It is a corner lot, like we said. They've been in the house for about 3 years, and I'm wondering if Robin or Jason is present. We were told that they were going to be signing in, and we were going to give them the opportunity to speak.
I do see another Robin.
You know, Rob, there's a lot of Robins in there.
I am here.
Hi, Robin.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm so excited about this award.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So tell us, any stories regarding gardening while pregnant? I would imagine this is a great exercise
It's
for
wonderful.
people.
Yeah, it's a good way to stay motivated. And I mean, I did most of this before I was pregnant. I'm not going to lie. I've been slowly adding everything since we moved in, from the peach tree to the apple tree. We just added a red bud this year. I'm honestly, like, I'm kind of sad that these are the pictures you're seeing because it has so many more beautiful moments. But I'm just really excited to have the award, and I can't wait to dig things up in the fall, rearrange, and make it even better and fuller and more exciting for the people who walk by.
Well, that's one of the awesome things about gardening. It's a never-ending process, and it's a painting that continues to change throughout the year. So it's one of those things that we really enjoy. I know it's a great therapy for me as well.
For
But
sure.
what I'm hoping is eventually we're actually considering the possibility of doing some online video garden tours. So please stay in touch.
Will do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robin. Congratulations.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And you too, Jason, for being supportive.
Thank you.
The Southeast winner is 344 East Hazelhurst. And this house is owned by Jeff Howitt and Laura Willem. It was built in 1937, lovely little 3-bedroom, 1-bath. They're recently married, even though they've been in the house for a while now. Musicians, so we like that. And they just keep adding and adding to their yard, removing turf and adding perennials. And let me show you this photo. If this doesn't impress you, nothing will. The delphinium that she is standing next to is over 6 feet tall. That's pretty darn impressive. So, Jeff, Laura, are you with us? I don't know if you're here or not, but I have
I'm looking.
Okay. Laura Willem or Jeff Howitt?
I don't see either.
Okay. Well, I just have to tell you, delphinium is not an easy plant to grow and make it look fabulous. And you guys did an amazing job. So thank you for all the work that you have done around your home to add beauty to our fair city. And congratulations on your award. We will be placing signs in all of these yards later. So thanks a lot. The next winner is in the Southwest Quadrant, 700 Gardendale. This is owned by Tracy Connolly. It's built in 1946. Little 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. It's a very eclectic, as I call it, Ferndale twist to a yard, complete with chicken and gnome statues. And I don't really know if maybe they were just giving that cherry tree a leg up, or maybe they were really impressed by Kinky Boots when they saw it back a year or so ago. It's an awesome, fun little yard just to explore in and see all the details. Tracy, are you with us?
I am. Can you
So
hear
tell me, What is up with the leg, darling?
I bought a Badlands from someone on Facebook probably 5 or 6 years ago, and I've sort of dispersed them throughout the neighborhood. Some other neighbor, that leg has stayed in the front yard for the last couple of years, and it's always a talking piece, to say the least.
Well, I would imagine, yes. But it obviously shows that you really love to kick it up in the garden. So that's an awesome thing. So how long have you lived in this house?
I've been here 14 years.
Wow. Okay. It was built in 1946, according to what they say in Zillow. I don't know if you're playing on a xylophone or if your audio is a little.
I'm only the second owner of this house. The gentleman who owned it. Sorry. House. And so when I moved in, there was nothing here, like literally not a single plant or tree anywhere. It was all grass. And so every piece of, I just finished tearing out the last of the grass a few weeks ago, actually. And,
I find it quite amusing that we've legitimized grass, but we've also have lots and lots of yards that are tearing up grass.
Yes.
Totally different kinds of grass, but it's just sort of ironic.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Tracy.
Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing more fun and quirky things in your yard.
Thanks. It looks so much nicer, sort of like the First Lady said when it fills in. So thank you very much. I'm honored.
You're welcome. And in the Northwest, the winner there is 529 West Woodland. This is owned by Catherine Conti. It was built in 1925. And Catherine has done a lovely job of accenting the house itself, but also moving all the way out to the very edge of the road. Anybody that does that obviously loves plants because they realize that anytime something ends up tearing up the road, it tears up our beds, but we just have to continue on anyway. This particular house has some great brickwork there, allowing terracing up to the front door. Catherine, are you with us?
I don't believe so, Robin.
Okay, awesome. Well, Catherine, we appreciate all your efforts. We want to thank all of the people who are recognized for their efforts, for bringing beauty to our town. And for those of you who may not have seen this, we'd also like to give a little shout out. The Geary Park sign was looking a little less than stellar, shall we say. And so here is the before and the after. A big shout out to our Ferndale Beautification Commission, one of our newer members, Ed Minus, and our city liaison, Michael Larry, for doing a fabulous job of cleaning that sign up, repainting it. It looks awesome, you guys. Thank you for taking brushes and scrapers in hand and making it look good for everyone. We appreciate that. Also, if you have anyone that you would like to nominate, whether it be a residence or a commercial business, we did not have a commercial business nominated this month. So please get out there and let us know if there is a home or a business that needs to be recognized. You can either visit the Ferndale Beautification Facebook page, or you can also go to City Hall or the DPW yard to nominate. And the next nominations are due by July the 15th. So please go out there, look around, nominate your neighbors, nominate yourself if you've done a fabulous job. But we really appreciate all of your participation. And I just want to say, I am so excited to say that we have over 2,600 people that follow our Facebook page. That's come quite a long way in the last 5 years or so that I've been involved with the commission. And we're very, very pleased with that. And we want to continue to see it grow because this is a great way to get information out and share all the wonderful things and all the beauty that we have here in the city of Ferndale. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to present these awards to you.
Thanks, Robin, and thanks you to the Beautification Commission. I love seeing how people are changing their yards.
Our pleasure.
All right, we're moving on to the next presentation, which is 5C, the annual presentation update on the Communications Department as presented by the Communications Director, Kara Sokol.
Hello.
Hello.
Let me just share my screen here. Can we see this?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you for the opportunity to talk to you all a little bit tonight, provide an update on the Communications Department. This has become a semi-annual thing. So the Communications Department and I both started in 2015. I've done an update to council in 2017 and 2019. And so now going forward, this is going to be an annual report of sorts. So this first one, I hope you'll grant me a little bit of extra time. Since the last time I updated, we have new residents, we have 2 new council members, we went through a weird year last year, and so a lot of the information that we would have normally gotten out, we haven't. So I'm going to kind of go into a little bit more detail about the department and who we are and what we do than I probably would going forward annually. These are all things I've been asked about, and so this is a great opportunity to present. I have a lot of information, and I'm going to try to make it short. And so I'm going to pull a Jordan Torty and try to do a lot of information in a short amount of time. So, okay. The Communications Department is 2 full-time staffs. Me, obviously, as the Communications Director. I've been here since 2015. We added Lindsay Gonzorek in 2018. She's our Communications Specialist. She does almost all of the design work, graphic design that you see come out, a lot of the print management, and a lot of our photo and video. And then in 2019, we added Riley Coleman, who started as an intern. She was pursuing a master's in communications from Oakland University, and has since become our 10 to 20 hours a week assistant. She does a lot of really great writing and editing for our department. So we kind of consider ourselves like a team, a small but mighty team of 2 1/4. Okay, I'm going to go through several different areas that our department kind of delves into. And as we go through this presentation, I'm just going to ask you guys to keep 2 things in mind. Number 1 is, particularly for those of you who understand or work in communications, keep in mind that sometimes communications and government communications are 2 different things. I didn't realize that as much as I do now when I got this job. I spent a lot of my first year realizing that some of the kind of best practices for communications and marketing are things we either are encouraged not to do or are not allowed to do when it comes to things like the Open Meetings Act and others. So, you know, we'll touch on that a couple times in this presentation. The other thing is, again, for people who are in communications, this won't be surprising, but there is no typical week in our world. And so we're going to try to boil things down into some easy percentages and ratios for you guys. But it's all just kind of for sake of discussion and less like a predictor of what our weeks look like. So keep those 2 things in mind. Okay. So basically, what we do is we manage communications, community engagement, and marketing for the city. This is a whole city of Ferndale, 190-ish employees, about a $57 million budget across 14 service areas with 21,000 residents and a whole number of businesses across multiple jurisdictions. So it's kind of a lot for a small department, and there's a lot of things kind of flying in and out of our office on most days. Most of these departments aren't going to be surprising because they're the departments of the city, but also kind of point out that we do also provide support for the DDA. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we go forward, as well as to our elected officials. So kind of break these down a little bit more as we go forward. Okay, so this is where I'm going to ask you to bring back the average week thing. So what we did to kind of be able to, you know, monetize in a way, if you will, like what we're doing and how often we're doing it, is the 3 people in our department sat down individually and looked at the last few months of our life and looked at a few months last year. And we kind of broke things down into how much time are we spending on each area here that we're looking at. And we all put those together for us. We put them together as a larger group. We averaged them out and we kind of broke them down into these areas. So even though this is kind of generally speaking, what a week in our life could look like, if it's the third week of March 2020 and everything has shut down because of COVID, this pie chart is going to look nothing like this. If it's a week in which there's massive flooding, like some of our Detroit neighborhoods have had to deal with, unfortunately, this weekend, again, this is going to look very different. So keep that in mind. Okay, let's start with administrative, which is pretty straightforward. It's the smallest area that we spend time on. It's a lot of the things you would expect from administrative services, finance, accounts. Couple of things to point out. One is that we've got our city council strategic plan in here. So the initiatives that come from that plan, things like the master land use plan, the support communications wise that we provide to our staff and our council for those sorts of things are in here. As well as I want to point out policy creation and employee development. Those things I say specifically because I spend a fair amount of time and have over the last few years creating streamlines between departments. When I get asked about this, I often say, like, think about Starbucks. And if every single Starbucks franchise or branch was allowed to create their own logo and create their own advertisements and coupons and marketing materials. They might be very good designers and very good writers, and those materials look very good, but they're going to be completely different, and you're not going to know what to expect from location to location or from visit to visit. And so, you know, in a marketing sense, we try to apply the same thing for the communications department. You know, whether you're getting a letter from DPW or, you know, hearing about a class from Parks and Rec, we want you to see the Ferndale logo. We want you to read the words that are kind of in the same language. We want to make sure that you can tell that it's us and that you know what kind of service you're gonna get. So from that desire, we've created the citywide style guide and communications guide. We've created a number of policies. For example, if the communication or a piece is going to be seen by more than 5 people externally, it runs through our department, which means we have a lot of things coming through the department. And we do that mainly just to ensure that there's consistency across the board. Okay, so crisis communications is an area that from week to week we might spend no time on, but when it comes up, this is one of those areas where it's gonna take a lot of our pie piece. This can be anything from known kind of critical issues, such as lead service lines and lead service line replacement, knowing that we're going to be a part of those communications. You know, the work we did last year for COVID-19, all the way up to completely unplanned situations like a barricaded gunman. We had that situation a few summers ago, where we've got emergency messaging that needs to come out from the police department. We've got media calling, and we've got social media to be updating. I will point out that in some larger cities, even Detroit maybe, I know, you know, the Chicagos and above, all of their emergency departments have PIOs or public information officers, their fire department, their police department. So they've got staff who are on hand in these departments to handle these things. In a city of our size, we wouldn't have that, of course. Police department does have a PIO, and I work with her and assist her. Sometimes she's out in the field, you know, it just kind of depends. Fire department here does not, and the DPW department does not. So that's a service that our department provides. I point out that it's red only because depending on the incident, this is a category where it's stop everything. We have a little visual that I use in my office for how and when to know if we're going to drop everything and help with it. This is all drop everything communications. If it's something, you know, lower level or something we can prepare for, you know, it's not going to take up much of the week. If it's a crisis and it's happening right away, we're going to drop everything and our work is not going to resume again until that's wrapped up. Okay, just pointing out here that the department also handles community engagement, customer service. So the engagement piece is attending events. You might see us out and about at Parks and Rec events or tree plantings. We might be taking pictures, we'll be talking to people. more often than not, the time is spent on responding to the citizens of Ferndale. And that's usually in the form of between 250 and 300 emails or social media messages every month. This is what we pulled from last month. So this is right in the average there. We man the Ferndale MI, information at Ferndale email address, as well as the web forms across our website. And so, depending on the time of year, this could be, if it's during a snow emergency, you can triple this. If we're heading into, like, for example, the week we are right now and into next week, this will be all about fireworks. It's all across the board. And so sometimes it means that we're transferring these things to other departments who can handle them. Sometimes it means, especially if it's a routine kind of a question, that we're just answering it ourselves. Mainly this is handled by Lindsay with assistance from Riley and assistance from me on higher level things. But it's definitely something that we spend daily time on. Okay. So working with the news and media is a big part of what we do. Some of it we kind of talked about already with crisis communications. We kind of break this up into two categories. One is proactive and the other is reactive. With a small department and kind of tight resources, we really do as much as we can to prepare. If there's something we fear could be something that will pop up, we want to have a press release template written for that, or we want to have a statement written for that. If we sense that there might be bad weather coming, our city manager will always ask before snow hits, do we have templates pre-written for snow emergencies? We don't want to be caught off guard by anything because it ends up taking more time that way. So the sample here on the left, the Common Ground, great example of our police department partnering with Common Ground to have offer mental health services. That's definitely an example of proactive. We wrote that article, we interviewed our police department and our mayor for quotes. We made sure we got it out to the media and got it covered by as many sources as we can. We love to build up those media relationships and have good working dialogues with them so that we have quick engagement when something reactive comes up. And reactive, of course, would be like the example on the right here, where there's gunshots heard. Our police department, as much as they would love to sit in the office and be able to answer these questions, are out investigating, trying to keep people safe. And so a lot of times then, we're flagged in and we're the ones answering those questions with information from them. Okay, social media. Nothing too revolutionary on the slide here. Obviously, we have and maintain social media accounts for the city, Facebook, Twitter, Nextdoor, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We also have backup kind of coverage responsibilities for the police department's Twitter account, particularly if there's some sort of a crisis going on, and the Parks and Recreation's Facebook page. And then I serve as backup on Facebook pages for our city's boards and commissions. And then many of you, I'm sure, will have seen me out and about in the Facebook forums and things like that. We do try to monitor, we look for being tagged, we look for any kind of issues out there, and we try to respond whenever we can. I do want to dig a little deeper in this one. This and our website are two sections I'm going to look a little closer at, because this is an area I have gotten a lot of questions, not just from residents, but also from some of our elected officials. So just want to dive into them a little deeper. These are a few of the questions I get the most often. The first one is, how are you deciding what to post? That question is generally coming from somebody who wanted us to share something and it didn't get shared, or who wondered why some important information didn't go out there. It probably looks very random, based on what's going out there and when it's going out there. I can tell you that it is absolutely not random in any way. Basically, we're deciding what to post based on three things. We've got the requests coming in from our departments, our staff, our elected officials, and our community, which, are regular and all the time. Everybody's got an event to share, a cool new program, something that they have out there, but maybe it's not getting a lot of traction. So can we share it again? Can we boost it? We also have kind of what's what's going on in the community, the kind of general climate. If we've got a larger, local, regional, or national kind of conversation happening, particularly if it's something sensitive, that's going to dictate how we share, how often, and the topics. And then finally, at any given time, we have a multitude of communications plans kind of running in the background, and those things are helping us to know what to push out and when. A great example of that is rain, stormwater, and flooding. That is a piece we have in our background all year this year. And it's certainly not a program happening right now that we need to push, but if we have an opportunity to get information out and educate, we're going to take that opportunity. And so we have anywhere from 6 to a dozen of those running in the background that are helping us kind of know when to pull content. And then the 3 of us are taking all that information and we are running a content calendar. Sometimes we're just texting back and forth a lot during the day and coming up with a plan that does the best we can at balancing that. I also have been asked, and this is interesting, it depends on the kind of person. So I've been asked by some people, why do you spend so much time on social media? And then I'll be asked by another person the same day, you only spend like 10% of your time on social media. So that's very telling, more about the asker of the question than the answer itself. We spend as much as we can spare. It might look like a resource that not that many people use. I happen to have the data from the Cobalt Community Survey that we had done in the beginning of 2020. And interestingly enough, the question was, how do you prefer to receive information from the city? And in the 18 to 24 group, 100% of people said Facebook and social media. 51% of 25 to 34 and 51% of 35 to 44 also said Facebook and social media. That goes down considerably above that age where people prefer a newsletter, which we're going to talk about later. But for a good chunk of our population, this is a place where they're getting info from the city. And the other piece to that is if something critical happens, if there's a massive weather event, if this power's out and we have residents on their phones, we want there to be an audience for us to be able to push critical or potentially even life-saving information. And the more we maintain our social media presence, the more we continue these conversations with our audience and our residents, the more we know that people will be there and the Facebook algorithm will show them our content when it matters the most. So this is a relationship that we put regular time every day into maintaining. The final question I've heard a few times in the last year particularly, which is why aren't we doing more to post regular city meetings on our social media, like as events? The answer to that is twofold, really. The first answer is it's a little complicated, but basically, dealing with government communications, we have the Open Meetings Act, which says that we have to have our discussions about council agenda items with a quorum of council in front of the public. So for example, the mayor and one council member and one staff member and 3 residents couldn't get together and have a discussion about this. That's a violation of the Open Meetings Act. So the question then becomes, if I post, we're having a council meeting tonight and we're going to be discussing really important point A, point B, and point C, and residents engage in a discussion on that post and ask questions and pose opinions, did they engage in the meeting or did they not? Was that a part of the Open Meetings Act or was that a violation of it? It's a very gray area, and it's something that at the state government level, we've put a lot of discussion into, and it's something that we monitor closely when we put these conversations out there. The second piece of why we don't do it more often is a lot simpler. So here's an example. It's just a couple of quick stats. We put a lot of Facebook events out for things like, specialty community meetings, parks and rec events. This example is the autumn recycling drop-off station. This is pretty typical. Our events usually, gain anywhere between 2,500 and say 20,000 audience reach. People engaging with it, people sharing it, people seeing it from other people's shares. And this is pretty much an average, I would say. You know, our family events for Parks and Rec are huge. Our specialty community meetings are smaller. This is about 9,000 people we reach with this, which is pretty good. And this is the city council meeting that we started sharing in January. We kind of did this as a trial because we'd been asked to investigate whether or not this would be something we wanted to do. So we decided to do it for this year and see. We have it running as like a recurring meeting. This was the first meeting. This was the January set of meetings. So this was kind of freshly posted. And as you can see, it doesn't even just have a low reach, it has 0 reach. So, and this is the second time we've tried this over the years. We tried the first time in 2016. It's not something that receives a reach for our audience. It's not something that gets shared or engaged with. And if you know anything about the social media algorithms out there, the more unengaged content you put out, the less people will see. And again, this is important information and we want as many people to see it as possible in general. So we want to avoid putting things out there that our audience just isn't interested in seeing. And that's the other reason why we're not doing that more often. Okay, I'm speeding through. Print communications, nothing too exciting. There's a lot of overlap here with departmental communications, which is next. The only reason I'm kind of separating this out is because the print process is something that isn't, it's a different animal than a lot of the other things we do. When we are making a production for print, like a sign here for the DDA, or a print newsletter like you can see on the left, that means that we are designing for print. So that means we have to think about how it's going to be folded, whether or not it's going to be mailed, what kind of the postage would be. You know, how many pages have to be in there? Is it going to get too heavy at some point? What are the limitations on being able to distribute it? And then we also have to add a proofing process. We have to add dealing, you know, kind of the setup and review process for our print company. And our specialist, Lindsay, handles all of that. She does it beautifully. Some things such as business cards and other smaller marketing pieces like that, there is a ton of demand for. And so it's worth mentioning that this is kind of a different sort of piece to what we do. And then departmental communications are really anything our departments ask us to do. This is kind of the meat of the job, to be honest. We get between 12 and 50 or more of these requests monthly. Can be anything from our code enforcement officer calling up and saying it's November 15th and we have a whole bunch of mushy pumpkins out on porches and we're worried about rat activity. So we need you to come up with some sort of a clever communication to help people throw their pumpkins away, all the way up to the dot, you know what I mean? And a 3-year kind of multi-level communications plan that touches on all of our audiences at different points and answers a whole bunch of FAQs and everything in between. This is just a really quick example that we pulled from recent pieces we've done for departments. You know, booklets on the left, kind of more internal, you know, not as much creative work. To signage, Lindsay designed and came up with the concept for the Ferndale patio, pay and take it outside, made all those beautiful signs. She also did the song lyric campaign last year, which is absolutely wonderful. You know, we heard from the fire department last year. They had dealt with a community fire caused by combustion after rags were kind of compressed in a hot area. And we had no idea that that could even happen. And so they said, is there a creative way we can get that word out? Lindsay designed this piece. It ended up being picked up by several of our local media channels, and we were able to get potentially really critical information out. Letters, tips, invitations, all that kind of stuff. This is all the little meat I'm talking about. All right, so this is the other area I'm going to dive into a little bit deeper, website and digital communications. Our department maintains 4 websites, really 3. Our main site, Ferndale MI, Park Ferndale, and Ferndale Moves, which is a component of the Master Land Use Plan. And then we also have Open in Ferndale, which is a microsite within our site for the CED department. We also do all of the survey creation and editing across the city. using SurveyMonkey, editing all of the items that you see on a council agenda, such as for tonight, and a lot of the static content in SeeClickFix. Okay, so a couple of questions that we get a lot about the website. And I'm going to start by just kind of, I think it was Councilwoman Mikulski a few weeks ago talked about wedding pricing, if I'm not wrong. And the concept that, you know, you could get a cake baked for $100, but if you're getting a wedding cake, you have to go to a wedding cake bakery and you have to pay a lot more money, and it's kind of a niche industry. And government websites they have that same thing going on, the same kind of a niche. You know, there are a few companies who do a large amount of government websites. If you go to a lot of the cities you know and love and scroll to the bottom, you'll start to see the same companies over and over again. This is an example of an area where we kind of bucked that trend. When we were looking at our last company change, we found this kind of smaller, scrappier, if you will, talented young force in a company called SeamlessGov. And they had an idea that government websites were not catering to the audience. They were catering to the governments, and had a lot of great data to back it. And when we went through the process of looking through our sites and our stats, we found that, at least for our audience, that made sense. And so we have a very different kind of website. And a lot of times people will ask that second question, you know, well, you know, why are your drop downs different? Most of the time you go to a government website and you click the upper navigation or you hover over it and you get a huge menu of options, sometimes up to 20 or 30. Every single thing on the website is in those drop downs. That is great for people who are very comfortable working within the system, employees and staff, contractors who are regularly coming on and getting permits and who know where things are. But if you are a person who does not regularly engage with the website, that thinking doesn't necessarily align with your thinking. You don't necessarily know that code enforcement is a factor of CED and things like that. So this trend was going the opposite way. Let's look at where your people are coming, where they're spending their time, the pages they're going to, and let's make those pages really easy to find. If they can't find them, let's make the search really robust, because that's the second way most people are engaging. And so we'll look at that in a second. The other question I get is, why did the Google ad results show up when I search on Ferndale's search page? And that is honestly just because this is a different kind of website. This team didn't decide to build custom searches on their websites, right? We're leaning on Google because Google is already got the power behind it. Unfortunately, that means that 3 ads come up when you search, no different than google.com, where 3 ads also come up on the top of their page. So we made the decision that we didn't think it would trip people up, since it's kind of already a ubiquitous way that people are searching and the kind of results they're seeing. So, all right, so we're looking at the website. This was March 23rd to June 23rd of this year. So this is basically the last 3 months. This is most visited and most searched pages. And we've got the stats next to it so you can see. What we're looking at is, like our web company told us at the beginning, a lot of really nuts and bolts things. We got paying and utility bills, water department, parks and recreation, permits, licensing, council meetings. And then we've also got services and departments, which are high up there. Those are our upper navigation, so that makes sense. Most searched kind of mirrors that in a way. Permitting, again, water bill, water department, ordinances, taxes, you know, a lot of pretty transactional things. You'll also see on the right here that some different items pop up. Trash and garbage is one, dog licenses, and compost. And that's because the 3 months we're looking at happen to coincide with several holidays where people want to know if their trash schedule is impacted, dog license renewal time when everybody's calling to get those done, and the compost piles showing up in the parks. And so based on this information architecture, we designed the website with these things and the top center fold easy to find. You'll notice that people want to pay, they want to go to the water department, they want to get the water bill, they want to get a permit, they want to get property taxes. All of those things are in our common requests, which show up on the very front of the homepage. Announcements, that's where we would put things like dog licenses and compost. We're tracking what people are searching for so that we can make sure that those announcements reflect that at the time. In the next week, you'll see that we have fireworks information go up there because that will become our next most searched thing. And so really, that's why the website is the way it is. And that's what we're tracking, and that's how we're making our decisions about updates. And then photo design and video is here. There's not much to say about it other than that we do some design and photo. We manage some freelance or agency-based photo and video. And Lindsay does all of our graphic design. And that's most of what you're seeing in that 19% is all of the design she's put into all of the pieces you've seen in this presentation up until now. And then really quickly, just looking at our goals that we had for 2020, 2021. We had 6 going into last year. The top 3 have, I'm happy to say, been completed. We have established a new city newsletter based on the request from the Cobalt Community Survey. We had a huge, it was actually #1 of all. Of the how do you prefer to receive information from the city, newsletter was the highest, particularly with people 45 to 65 and older. But you know what, it's important that we're getting information out to everybody in the ways that they want to consume it. And so we were happy to do that. First edition has already printed and is in the mail. You should actually be receiving it literally probably tomorrow or early this week. We also helped Mayor Piana launch the mayor's e-newsletter. That's now a monthly publication, put out the last week of every month. We're on our 3rd month right now. We've had a great response to that. I can share share sign up information on the website for anybody interested. And we did an update to the communications and style guide, which is all of the policies, the branding information, all of that kind of good stuff. We did that earlier this spring. And then we've got 3 that are in progress. We're working to develop the city's first ever crisis communications guide. I have gone through the training for that, and we are nearly complete with the front matter. So that will be a 2-part project. First part finished this year, second part finished next year. We're looking at doing media training for staff and elected officials. We've got that identified and scheduled for the fall. And we're looking at content refresh of our website across all pages. And the wonderful Riley is working on it as we speak. And that is slated to be done this year. And that is it. So I would be happy to take any questions you have. I hope that wasn't too long. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Kara. It was really comprehensive of what you do. And I'm always impressed by what your team kicks out on behalf of the city. Are there questions from council at this time?
Just wonderful job, and that explanation was just so needed, and I really appreciate that because now even I know completely everything that you do. So you and your department. So thanks for doing that. That's going to be very helpful to the community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kara, and thank you, Lindsay and Riley as well. All right, next up on presentations is 5D, and it is an update on our racial equity progress going on in the city. And who is introducing this? Joe.
Through the chair, I'll go ahead and introduce our HR director, Dan Jacey, and our graduate management assistant, Tanisha Woods-McSwain. Both of those 2 individuals have been leading this effort, and they are here to give you a progress report on Council's anti-racism resolution this evening. Dan and Denicia, are you both promoted?
Yes.
Wonderful. And with that, we'll bring up their presentation.
All right, thanks, Joe. And good evening, Mayor and Council. Just gonna share my screen really quick. All right. So, can you all see that? Or is there something in the way? I think we're good.
You're good.
All right. Thanks.
Good.
Okay. Alrighty, so like Joe said, we're just here to give a quick update on our racial equity efforts in the city and just where we are a year to date. So what we're going to talk about today is just the council resolution from last year, those action items. We're going to talk about our equity definitions, and we're going to actually give an update on our anti-racism work. We're going to talk about our three-prong approach that we've created and our community research that we're doing, and then we'll have some closing remarks. So firstly, council made an official commitment to anti-racism on June 8th, 2020, and within that declaration, there were 3 action items, one of which was to review recruiting, hiring, retention, and support policies, to study the Michigan Department of Civil Rights Racial Equity Toolkit and develop a racial equity policy, and then create a community advisory board. And from our work, we've known that we want to create a set of definitions to mold our initiatives around because a shared vocabulary helps to foster a shared understanding. And from that, we created a equity glossary. So it's just a list of terms that are really helping us mold what we're doing. And the first one of those is the anti-racism definition, which is the active process of identifying and eliminating racism by changing systems, organizational structures, policies and practices, and attitudes so that power is redistributed and shared equitably. And then we have equity, which is fairness and justice in policy, practice, and opportunity, consciously designed to address the distinct challenges of non-dominant social groups with an eye to equitable outcomes. And our glossary is going to be on the city website. We're just figuring out logistics about exactly where it's going to go and kind of creating a new home for our equity initiatives on the website. And so next we're going to talk about our anti-racism update, what we've been doing within the year. And the first thing that we've done is some peer city research with an emphasis on the city of San Jose, California. And then we had an expert resource connection with Benoit Jacob, who we got a chance to talk to directly from ICMA, which is the International City County Management Association. And with that, I'll let Dan take it away and talk about our peer city research.
Thank you, Denicia. So it's important to note that GARE is an organization that provides an opportunity for government entities to learn from one another, who are all in their own processes of managing racial equity within their communities. We have heard from several and have gotten some great information and ideas along the way. But tonight we want to focus on San Jose, whose experience provides a meaningful lesson about this process. One thing we've learned is we're going to be learning continuously throughout this process so that we can continue to get better as we go forward. But San Jose has about 1 million people. They've been formally working on racial equity since about 2018. What they learned along the way was that their real problem in delivering equity was related to their immigrant population. So the city focused its effort on the Office of Immigrant Affairs with the purpose of creating a more informed, engaged, and welcoming experience for immigrants to increase opportunities for shared prosperity and aim at becoming the most successful multicultural city in the world, which is a pretty lofty goal. Now, the city had an Office of Immigrant Affairs since 2015, but it wasn't until they looked at immigrant affairs through the lens of racial equity that they really recognized the problems that existed in delivering equitable services throughout their immigrant population. And so I like the fact that their website up front puts racial equity out in front, and immigrant affairs also as a resource and a very easy way for people to get the resources that they need. We too will lead with racial equity, and we'll use that lens to create equitable outcomes for all of our people.
Next, our connection through GARE has led us to Benoit Jacob, who is the Director of Community Development Institute at the University of Wisconsin. And he wrote a paper for ICMA, again, which is the International City County Management Association. He was a research fellow, and so he wrote this paper titled Governing for Equity, Implementing an Equity Lens in Local Government. So we got a chance to see him speak at the GARE annual meeting, or I'm sorry, I think it was our monthly meeting. And he talked about this paper that he wrote, and then afterwards we decided to meet with him one-on-one. And in this meeting, he really gave us sort of like sorry, I'm finding my words. He solidified everything that we were thinking originally as far as our equity definitions. And he told us that it was okay to work on internal and external equity simultaneously. And so from that, we decided to go ahead with our three-pronged approach, which we have here. So I'll let Dan talk about that.
Yes, so when we talk about the three-pronged approach, I think that it's important to just recognize up front that this is not a linear process. I know I'm a linear person, so I like things to be this and then next, but that's not the way this works. We can only progress toward racial equity by involving multiple stakeholders at the same time. So one of the things that we want to do is create a racial equity action team consisting of representatives across multiple departments within the city. And when we do that, we're going to set clear expectations about time and commitments that are required. We only want people on this team that are passionate about this work. We'll be intentional about promoting a diverse group of employees. The focus of this group is going to be bringing forward departmental information regarding readiness and racial equity within each individual department. This group will put together the first drafts of equity documents, including the racial equity glossary, which we have a starting point, but Ferndale will need to kind of develop their own as we move along. We may keep some the way that they are, but everything is open to input and subject to change as we move things forward. And these are the terms that Denicia spoke about that relate to equity, diversity, and inclusion, because that language is incredibly important. This group will bring together community input to create and adapt initiative components as they continue to grow and change. An example of this would be the city's racial equity mission statement, which is yet to be developed. So we will also be holding community meetings with a strong focus on attracting people of color. From that, we want to learn about inequities that people face within our community and the larger Metro Detroit area. We'll utilize a professional facilitator to either further this conversation or to present data on how systematic racism has been infused into our social system over time. And I've only seen limited information about this, but I can tell you that it is powerful and it makes you want to take action. And then we'll continue to have conversations within our community about racial equity as we go through this process. It is important to recognize that this is going to be ongoing. It's not something that's ever really going to be done. And I don't like the word initiative, but it's the best word that I can come up with because it's not really, it's more than an initiative, and that seems a little bit trite. It's about trying to make this who we are, not just be an initiative. So at the same time as we're doing these things, we're also going to work with the department to discuss racial equity within that department. We often focus on police when discussing racial equity. And while we continue to do that, it's important to recognize that racial equity affects every department. And so we want to make sure that every department is included in the conversation. So we're going to start with one department and discuss equity openly with those employees. And then we'll have ongoing meetings to learn more about equity as we raise awareness and eliminate processes, policies, and practices that are not equitable. Through that, while we're doing that, we're going to document the findings and processes so that what we learn can be incorporated into other departments. And so that really is the essence of the three-pronged approach that we'll begin with.
So additionally, we do want to do some community research so that we're able to illustrate how systemic racism or other inequities are affecting residents within Ferndale. And so we're looking to work with local partners to collect and analyze data. And we also have found a new resource. Well, it may not be new, but through ICMA's Moving the Needle for Racial Equity Summit, we learned about My Sidewalk, which is a comprehensive community data library. And they have data from over 40 sources, and they clean up the data and make it pretty for us to present and make it easy to access so that everybody understands what we're looking at and how it's affecting the city. So they have data on public health, housing, economic opportunity, transportation, and so that's something that we're also going to look into further. And just some closing remarks. Again, like Dan said, it's important to remember that this is an incremental and non-linear process, and it requires patience and intentionality, hence the turtle that we have here. If you remember the story of the tortoise and the hare, we want to take our time and make sure that what we're doing is intentional. And a quote that I got from the ICMA Moving the Needle for Racial Equity Summit, change happens at the speed of trust. And this was from Amy Kane, who was the equity program manager for the city of Boulder, Colorado. And that just really means that we have to, trust each other and garner trust from our residents to be able to really change the city as a whole. So with that, we'll take any questions or comments.
Are there any questions from council or comments?
Good work.
So I just wanted to add that we just nailed down at least some of the details to have a lengthier, kind of a more back and forth community discussion on this topic on July 8th at Affirmations at 7 o'clock. I'll announce that again during call to council, but I thought it was pertinent to throw it in at the end of this presentation as well.
Yes, thanks. Thank you, Kat.
Thank you, Dan and Denicia, for all your work. I appreciate it. And I look forward to working with you next week.
Absolutely.
All right, and thank you, staff, for putting this together. And I look forward to making progress this year on the equity policy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
All right, folks, that is the end of presentations, and we are moving on to call to audience. And we set aside a half hour during call to audience for public comment, and leave after call to council if we need more time to extend after. And we did make some changes to our call to audience rules at the beginning of the year, and that is we invite people to make any comment about the agenda on or off. And we ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. And I will be timing you here, and we'll be gently reminding you when your 3 minutes are up to wrap up. And this will be the last time I will be interrupting, because when we go back into the council chambers, there is a huge time clock now to help guide residents with the public comment portion. So, and as a reminder, please direct your comments to me and the city council, not staff, because staff take direction from us, and focus on the issues and not the people. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to our Assistant City Manager, Kyle, to manage this process.
Thank you, Mayor. And even though it's our last meeting, I did come up with a timer on our participation slide. So folks will see this green bar at the top. When you start talking, I will start that, and it'll go green, yellow, red, and then totally empty, white, and then it'll say time in the top left corner. So first up is Kat Latosh.
Hi, Kat Latosh calling in. Sorry, my webcam's not working so well today, so I'm just
welcome.
I wanted to share some thoughts on the racial equity action report. And is this an appropriate time to ask questions as well, or just to make comments?
This would be an appropriate time to make comments, and Councilwoman James and I are going to be holding the sort of community forum, doing a more in-depth talk about this on July 8th.
Okay. So my comments about the report are, I think at the top of the report, I saw it listed out the different actions that the city was going to take in response to its own statement. One being reviewing, recruiting, hiring, retention, and support policies, two, to study the MDCR toolkit, and 3, to create a community advisory board. And I appreciate the report. What I didn't see was updates on those specific items. I saw like a lot of information about what you're doing. I didn't see a lot of information about progress on those particular items. I think it might be helpful is in your planning processes is if you were to create some kind of dashboard, so you could say, okay, this is how far along we are on this one. This is how far along we are on this one. This is what we're hoping to accomplish with this one, so that when those report outs come up, it might be a little bit easier to, for me as a community member to gauge. And I apologize, I didn't say my full name is Kathleen Latosh. My street address is 715 West Breckenridge. I'm in Ferndale. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kat. And council or staff has given an update on the HR and previous council meetings, but duly noted on the recommendation to have everything in one place.
We have one call-in, Mayor, so I'll go to them. It is 248 area code, last 3 digits is 209.
Hello, 209.
Hi. Hi, this is Sherry Allen calling. I'm a resident of Ferndale. I just wanted to put in some comments regarding the proposed road diet. I have some issues with it. I'm not specifically against the road diet, but I feel like the one company or the one study that was done, I read that they allegedly didn't even visit the city, so I feel like that's incomplete information. But I also feel like the whole thing is a Band-Aid at this point. It's not really dealing with the actual problem, which is we need other modes of transportation, not just specifically bicycles. All that's going to be being done is relocating the traffic. It's going to go through the neighborhoods, or it's expected to go over to I-75. It does nothing to reduce the environmental impact or the actual traffic. We need high-speed rail, we need dedicated bus lanes, we need some type of mass transit. So it's one thought. I also feel like the Amazon coming isn't even going to be, hasn't been looked at, the impact of that. Those truck drivers are going to have to go up Woodward to get to some of those communities in our area and to some of the houses in our area. So there will be some impact from them coming. I also, I'm trying to read my notes, sorry. Okay. So anyways, the narrowing of the street, the narrowing of the street, I feel like there should be at least a dedicated lane to bus transit. Otherwise, someone's going to be getting stuck behind a bus. The traffic right now seems to exceed 35 miles an hour. And where the side streets, I noticed in one of the diagrams the side streets. There's going to be a change to the way people are turning into a side street. Excuse me. Where it looks like it's going to be narrowed somewhat. Well, you still have to have bicycles crossing across there. And if it's going to be narrowed, and you've got more traffic in each lane, you're going to have to slow down to make a right-hand turn off of Woodward onto the side street. I mean, you have to look for those regular pedestrians and bicyclists going through. But also, you've got more traffic now piled up behind you, so that's going to be some type of issue.
Sherry,
I
we're at 3
yeah.
minutes. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
We're at 3 minutes.
Okay. No problem. I'll just email it, I guess is what I can do. Thank you.
I would love to talk to you about all of this because I share a lot of thoughts that you have. So if you're interested in walking with me or meeting with me for coffee, I would love to do that. All right. Next.
Mayor, next is Prasad.
Hi, Prasad. Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Welcome to our meeting.
Thank you. I appreciated the update. I'm here to speak about the racial equity update, and I really appreciated the update that was given. It gives me a sense of what's been done in the past year or so. So I do want to raise, what I didn't hear in the update, and I was actually hoping to hear, was some of the very specific action items that were listed in the resolution, including the community board and so on, related to the police department, and some very specific policies related to hiring and equity, diversity and equity in hiring. And so, for example, I know that, and I know I'm focusing on the PD here, but I imagine that what I'm about to say about the PD is also true of a number of other departments. So I take that comment that was made during the update seriously, and that is, there were a number of hires in the PD, and I know they were short-staffed, and so they really needed some hires. So unless I'm mistaken, there were about maybe 8, 9 hires recently. And so my question regarding the PD and any hires that were done in other departments was, since the resolution was passed last year, what effective measures did the city put in place to ensure that there was appropriate diversity and equity processes that were followed in these hires? So that part was missing. I understand it takes a lot of research and a lot of thought process and research and everything else to get things right and not just do a haphazard job. But I was just concerned about the fact that we've had a number of hires in the past year. And there were also specific items in the resolution that weren't addressed in the update. So I'm hoping that maybe at the community meeting we have, there'll be more specifics on the actual action items that were listed in the resolution, as well as any processes that were used in the past year to hiring and everything else that was, and racial equity policies within the departments, and what changes have actually been made in 13 months that we've had since that resolution was passed. So thank you, but I do appreciate the update. I was just a little surprised at a couple of things that were missing, details that were missing in it that I had hoped to hear, and I'm sure there are some good reasons for that, and I'm hoping to hear those at the community meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Prasad.
Mayor, next is Ray Crusett.
Hi, Ray. Welcome to the meeting. If you can state your full name and your street address. Ray?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, welcome. Can you state your full name and your street address for us?
Yes. Raymond Crusett, 268 Pearson Street.
Excellent. Thanks for coming.
I have a comment, or I guess partial question about the Woodward Avenue diet. Right now on Fabulous Ferndale Forum, there are 2 different polls going in regards to the Woodward diet. I can say right now, as of just about an hour ago, 654 against, 504 for. My question is, why not put this on a ballot? It appears that there's a lot of people that are just unaware that this is even going on. that this is being considered, and it's going to profoundly affect everybody. And it's important enough that I think it should be on a ballot. And that's probably the only way to reach people that are older who are not on social media and who are not aware of this. And on a ballot, it would all be represented. So, and that's it. That's my question.
Hi, Ray. We, during call to audience, we just listen to residents, but we will be having a lot of community meetings mid-July when and if the city gets this grant. I've been very clear that the grant needs to be awarded to the city in order for this project to go forward. And if we don't get the grant, the city is not able to pay for everything out of its own pocket. So there will be more community engagement if this project even gets to that point mid-July. That's when we've been told we've been found out. So stay tuned, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Anyone else? And Mayor, I see no further hands.
All right then. Thanks everybody for your public comment. We always appreciate everybody sharing their opinions and their thoughts and ideas. All right, we're moving on to the consent agenda, which I will read in its entirety, and it is shorter this time than last time. All right, we start with 7A, approval of the special and regular council meeting minutes of June 14th, 2021. 7B, approval of the city fee schedule. 7C, consideration of city council's guidance for public participation policy. 7D, approval of appointments for the SACRA board representative and alternative. And that's the South Oakland Council or South Oakland County Recycling Recovery Authority. 7E, approval of the 2% wage increases for non-union employees with merit increases at the cost of $86,325. 7F, approval of EMS IC licensing program for 4 Ferndale fire rescue personnel for a cost of $11,104. 7G, approval to pay renewal dues to the Michigan Municipal League in the amount of $8,988. 7H, approval to backfill the finance director position and enter an agreement with GovHR to conduct a national search for our next finance director at a cost not to exceed $10,000. 7I, approval to adopt a proclamation of recognition honoring Ferndale area district library staff for their service to the community during the COVID-19 pandemic. 7J, approval of the field testing with written report on the stainless steel handrails at the DOT parking structure from Weiss, Janey, Elster Associates, an amount not to exceed $3,500. And 7K, approval of the bills and payrolls as submitted by the city manager's office and subject to review by the council finance committee. What is the pleasure of council?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Mikulski and supported by Councilman Polika. And I know that he's interested in reading the proclamation. If we may honor that.
Yes, Mayor, if I could read 7I, the proclamation recognizing the staff of the Ferndale Area District Library. The COVID-19 pandemic that redefined life as we knew it and changed the way we interacted with the world for over a year. All over the United States and beyond, businesses, government offices, schools, medical offices, everything else closed down to protect the health and safety of communities everywhere. During those dark times when cases were increasing and hope was in short supply, heroes took on a new face in the frontline workers who risked their own health to provide services to the neighbors and customers. Our mental picture of heroes changed from just first responders to the healthcare workers, grocers, gas station attendants, and food service providers who risked their personal safety for the good of all. The term essential worker became commonplace as many employees worked from home offices. As days turned to weeks and weeks to months, many offices truly are essential to the soul of a community. Libraries provide more than just reading materials, access to computers, to assist in daily life and other tangible goods, they provide community to those who patronize the library. Libraries are vital to the culture and mental health of a community. The materials that libraries provide to residents can be a lifeline to those who are alone or lonely. The people who staff libraries become well known and familiar to their patrons. Like so many others, the staff of the Ferndale Area District from home during the pandemic, but never lost sight of the needs of their patrons. Although the building was closed, the materials and services continued to be available using curbside pickup and providing the closest thing to normalcy that for the community members who needed them. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of Ferndale, Michigan, that the Ferndale City Council recognizes Ferndale Area District Library Director Jenny Marr and her staff as unsung heroes of the pandemic for protecting the sense of community that libraries foster and provide books, movies, services, and solace to their patrons. And I want to thank our city clerk, Marnie McGrath, for authoring this proclamation. And I also want to recognize a resident, Helena Powers, who actually reached out to me and said, we should have a proclamation. So while I would love to take credit for this, I am merely the conduit for allowing this to happen. So I thank you for your support, fellow council members. Mel, you're on mute.
Thank you, Councilman Pollica, and thank you to our library for going above and beyond. With that, we have a motion on the floor. So, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May?
Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski?
Yes.
Councilmember Pollica?
Yes.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
And Mayor Piana?
Yes. And that concludes our consent agenda items, and we're moving on to the next item is the regular agenda, and 8A is confirmation of appointments to the city boards and commissions. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Yes. So we have opened up our boards and commissions process for applications as we do every month from the 1st to the 15th. This month we had a number of applicants, and those folks are forwarded on to the mayor for vetting, and then once a decision is made, the appointments are requested for confirmation by council. So that is the point we are at tonight. We have 3 appointments this evening to the Parks and Recreation Commission, Jennifer Fiant, Michael Avoy, and Valerie Kuskaska.
Thank you. Just to let everybody know, whenever I get applications for appointments, I call everybody and talk to them, get to know them, and thank them for their interest in being a part of our boards and commissions, but also try to help set expectations. And the reason I do that, particularly for this year, the Parks and Rec Commission is going to be very busy redoing the master land use plan. I'm sorry, being and supporting the master land use plan, but also being part of the Parks and Rec plan that we'll be talking about, and our new climate action plan. So I'm really excited to put forth all of these 3 candidates for the Parks and Rec Commission at a time that the Parks and Rec is going to be very busy. And so I would love for council to approve these residents who want to lend their talents to the city. And if you have any comments or about any of the individuals, I would love to hear them.
Mayor, I don't have a comment, but I was wondering if the individuals are present, if they might want to say something.
I see Jennifer Fiant, and invite her. And Valerie's
Valerie.
Here. And I know
Michael, I'm not sure.
Michael is not coming. He emailed me. But Jennifer, why don't we invite Jennifer and Valerie up just to say hi? If they wish.
Sure. Hi.
Hi,
Thank you
Jennifer.
for consideration. I'm really looking forward to learning a lot and looking at ways that I can support. I know it's going to be a busy year from what you were saying, Melanie. I know big ambitions for the Parks and Rec Commission, and I'm really excited to be a part of that if you are open to having me.
Absolutely.
Hello.
Hi, Valerie. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to serve my city, the city I live in. I work for the City of Detroit Parks and Rec and have been there for quite a while. And I'm excited to bring those talents to the city of Ferndale and to serve, my city where I live. I've lived here in this house longer than I've lived anywhere else my whole life. So I'm excited to work for the city, in this capacity.
Thank you, and thanks for both for coming tonight. And look forward to interacting with you during all of our community engagements during these plan updates in person. So, all right, with that, I'm going to turn it back over to City Council and have them make a motion and any comments.
I will move to confirm the appointments of Jennifer Fiant, Valerie Kaska, let me say it right, Kaska, and Michael Eboy to the Parks and Rec Advisory Commission for terms ending December 31st, 2023, as submitted by the Ferndale City, as submitted by the city clerk and the mayor.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May and supported by Councilwoman Mikulski. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Mikulski?
Yes.
Councilmember Polika?
Yes.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May?
Yes.
And, Mayor Piana?
Yes. All right, and now we are moving on to the next item is 8B, approval to amend the fiscal year 2021 budget amendments as identified in the attached budget amendment number 2 document as submitted by the finance director. And Cheryl, I believe you're gonna introduce this item?
Yes, I am.
Yep, she's on, okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the second budget amendment for this fiscal year. As you know, we've had quite a unprecedented year, finance-wise, with COVID, not knowing what was going to happen with some of our capital projects, some of our revenues. So this is the final budget amendment for the year. A couple of things that I just want to point out that were significant in this one. I think that we covered most of the budget amendments in December when we did it mid-year. The other piece of this is just anything that we've approved since December to now. I've gone in and made sure that we've had the budget for those items if the item that you guys approved indicated we needed budget for. A few things were credit card fees were up because we were waiving those for the citizens. So we have a bigger bite of those out of our budget this year. A lot of these, we weren't sure what it was going to look like. So we waited till this time of year to make sure that we were as close as we could be in our budget numbers. We also have a significant amount of state grants and federal grants that we received from COVID and from other areas that were providing COVID support and some CED support. You know, it seems like the government had a lot of money that they were trying to make sure they got down to the locals. So I made sure that we've got an appropriate budget for those items. EMS fees in December, I think we thought that those were going to be significantly lower and those ended up right on track. So I made those kind of adjustments. Most of those are general fund adjustments. There were a few non-general fund adjustments. The MIDC, which is the Michigan Indigent Defense Fund, we didn't have a budget in place for, so I made sure I did that. And that's the grant that the district court gets to allow us to provide attorney services for people who can't afford it. And I think that was probably all of the really big stuff. We did push, as I mentioned in my background, we did push a lot of capital things. So you're going to see a lot of capital items. The budget has been reduced, but then we're going to pick those back up in next fiscal year as the timing and supply chains for those things has really just messed up where we were at and where we thought we were going to be doing those projects. And with that, if you have any questions, I would be happy to address them.
I'll open up to council for questions.
Actually, I'm not sure if, I'm sorry, through the chair, through the mayor. I'm not sure if this question is directed to you, Cheryl, or Joe, or to council, actually. But you had mentioned that the fees, you know, we were not charging fees during the period of the pandemic to make it financially easier on people. But at some point, we need to start charging those fees again. When we're looking at over $100,000 in credit card fees.
Yeah, Councilman, I'll handle that, and then Cheryl can support. Actually, a lot of the resolutions that you guys adopted at the onset of COVID, suspended or modified fees through the fiscal year, which expires June 30th. So actually, we're about to roll back into reinstating those fees that were kind of organically passed by you that expired actually on Wednesday. So when we roll into the new month and the new fiscal year, a lot of those fees will be restored. And that is consistent with our peers.
Yeah, as a suggestion, we may want to publicly announce that, you know, to let people know, rather than them getting a bill back that, you know, well, wait a minute, I didn't know that we were paying fees again. So we should probably make the effort to announce it publicly that fees will be started.
I guess it's only fair that you guys stole my thunder this week when I stole your thunder 2 weeks ago. That was in my announcement this evening.
Sorry.
No worries.
It's a good question, Councilman.
That's the only question I have.
Through the chair, I have just a very quick question regarding the Department 215 city clerk and the business licenses and permits. Switching from a projected of 10,000 to amended of 1,750. Is that just, I guess I'm asking for any sort of insight into what's up there.
The way that you read this document is not very intuitive, and I apologize. I kind of had it all together and realized it was backwards, and I didn't want to risk making bigger mistakes by trying to flip-flop it. So what you see, the business licenses and permits was 1,700 is the amendment that we passed in December. That was the first amendment. Again, when we thought we were trying to, you know, ease some of the businesses, we didn't know what COVID looked like. And the amendment that you guys are approving tonight is upping it to 10,000.
Okay, so the projected column is the amendment tonight.
Yes, yes. I apologize for the confusion on that.
I had one question, Cheryl, about the state personal property tax loss reimbursement. It seems like it's significantly reduced. Is that just because I'm not even going to speculate, but why is it so?
I can answer your question. I know what your question is.
Why is it lower?
Well, I looked at that, and as you guys know, one of my philosophies about budgeting for revenue and estimating revenue is conservative. So if there were additional years on this, you would see that the jump up to, I think it was like 300,000, just happened in the last couple of years. They've been tweaking some of the calculations for that personal property tax that the state is reimbursing us for. I don't know what it's going to look like yet, so I'm leaving it where it is until I can be sure what it's going to look like.
Okay, so it looks like they're reducing the amount that they reimburse per their new formula. Is that?
No, it's,
no?
Let me go back. Let me get to where you are.
I'm on the first page under revenue.
Yeah. So there's no change in that amendment, but the activity is 682. So I need to look at that. One of the things that I do need to point out is the activity in this account is, these are all pre-audit. So I haven't made any of my audit adjustments. Some of this stuff might be next year or previous year stuff that needs to be backed out. I haven't done any scrubbing on the actual activity. If you look at what we're projecting and then what we are budgeting, what we budgeted amended in December, and then what we're projecting now has not changed. Because it looks like last year it was 408, but if you recall 2 or 3 years ago, it was like 150, 175. So I just need to research that 682 and make sure that that's all the money that belongs in there.
Okay.
That's why we didn't make that. I misspoke when I said that, sorry, but I need to just, so that you guys understand, this is totally the budget stuff, making sure that the budget is clear, all of the audit prep and the scrubbing of the actual numbers, maybe something's in a wrong account, all of that stuff still has not been done. We haven't ended the fiscal year yet.
Okay. All right. Are there other questions from council?
Again, Mayor, I have a question. So Cheryl, in the past, when we've had our audit, which usually comes in the fall for the previous year, we kind of have a history of getting dinged is probably not the right word to use, but there are some minor anomalies that tend to be found. Are we going through this with a finer tooth comb to kind of make sure that we don't have any of those minor errors where, something was budgeted for a certain amount and we had approved it, documented of the approval, that, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I will say that ding is probably a good word. And the state typically in the budget and they look for any expenditures that could be over budget, and that's what we try and capture here. With the changes that have happened in the finance department with the deputy leaving and the changes that are coming in the finance department, on the next agenda, you are gonna see a proposal from Plant Moran to come in and help us with the audit prep. And they're really good at catching all that stuff before the auditors do. So I can anticipate that we won't have those going forward.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
All right, seeing no more questions from council, we'll need a motion.
I move that we approve the amendment of fiscal year ending 21 budget amendments as identified in the attached budget amendment number 2 document as submitted by the finance director.
Support.
Moved by Polika and supported by Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Polika?
Yes.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May?
Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski?
Yes.
And Mayor Piana?
Yes. All right, next up is 8C, consideration of a contract with the Smith Group for $130,000 for the city's master land use plan, Parks and Recreation master plan, and climate action plan. And I believe planning manager or Joe, who's leading this one?
Through the chair, Justin Lyons.
Ryan, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Exciting to actually get to this point. So, just want to make sure everyone can see my screen with the title slide there. But again, yes, Justin Lyons, planning manager for the city. Excited to really get this project going. Also want to thank Environmental Sustainability Planner Aaron Patel and Deputy Parks and Recreation Director Lisa Bryant, as well as others on the team to help with this presentation. So I'll be doing most of the talking, but they all played a great role in helping put this together. So, but as the mayor stated, it is time to update the master land use plan, the Parks and Recreation plan, and a new plan to the mix, the climate action plan for the community. So excited to start this process with the community. I'll just go through a quick overview, but I'm going to go through some definitions for those that maybe have never heard of a master plan or these other plans. Some accomplishments for the community since the last plan was updated. And trying to explain why does Ferndale need all these plans. We think plans are good, and hopefully you will too. A description of the selection and proposal process that we went through initially here, the recommendation from the steering committee, what is the overall council request, and then just some discussion, happy to answer questions. So getting right into it, let's start with the definitions, at least the initial definitions. So if we were all in the same room, I would have asked you all to raise your hands if you've heard terms like a master plan or climate action plan or a parks plan. But maybe we'll do that at a future meeting. So we were going back and forth on a number of different images on how to explain how these plans connect. But generally, communities in Michigan update what's called a master land use plan. It's an official policy document that's authorized by Michigan law to serve as the basis for zoning and guide decisions on development and public capital improvements. So it's a guide. It's not a law that you enforce like many of the zoning, but like the zoning ordinance and other ordinances the city has. You might hear, we've been trying to be better at explaining all the acronyms that go into all of city government. But you may hear the MLUP often mentioned, but that is the master land use plan. So often, many communities in Michigan, when they're updating their master land use plan, they also update their parks and recreation plan. So that's a document used to really come up with strategies and actions related to parks and recreation, just as it sounds. So plans sometimes include an inventory of current resources, what's in the parks, identify needs set forth by the community, and then really setting forth an action plan on how to achieve everything in that plan. So new for this process, at least for Ferndale, is the climate action plan, which I know our council and obviously our sustainability plan are very excited about. It's a document used to move forward with strategies and actions to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. The city just did a greenhouse gas emissions inventory, which leads right into this next plan. So focusing on mitigation, resiliency, and adaptation to changing climate, hopefully to prevent major storm events or at least offset them like we've been dealing with in Michigan lately. So these three plans, driven by the community, will be eventually adopted by City Council with recommendations from the Planning Commission. That's how it's set forth in the city's zoning ordinance, but there will be a lot of other pieces to this puzzle. So hopefully you're generally familiar with these title pages. These were part of the 2016-2017 Community Master Plan and Parks Plan. Those are the most recent plans that were done as part of this process, led by Hamilton Anderson was the consultant at the time for those projects. So during, for 12 to maybe 16 months, the community staff, the Planning Commission, City Council, and others helped compile these plans. As you can see, the Parks and Recs plan was part of that. There was a lot of community engagement throughout public meetings. Ferndale Moves, Ferndale Exchange was one of the platforms that was used. There were surveys, community meetings, open houses at the Rust Belt. Probably one of the first community meetings for Ferndale recorded and put on the city's YouTube page and shared around. So there were, coming out of that plan, based on all that feedback, there were over 118 action items that were related to housing, transportation, other aspects, but sustainability was really interwoven throughout the plan. The plan also included some supplemental studies that were related to housing figures, office and retail figures in the downtown and the industrial district that's bounded by Woodward Heights and the railroad tracks and Hilton. So got a lot of good information of the market at the time and in the future for those types of spaces. The recommendations also ended up leading to connections to other plans, which we'll talk about in a bit, but City Council strategic plan was really built around these plans, as well as capital improvement plans, the affordability and inclusive housing plan, as well as Ferndale Moves, the city's mobility plan. So we were going through as staff the accomplishments from the last plan and just all the things that were completed, in the community based on things that the community recommended since 2017. It's pretty amazing to actually see these plans come to life. So I won't go through all of these things, but in the master land use plan, I mentioned this, sustainability is woven throughout. So, the community since then has accomplished an LED streetlight conversion, hiring an actual environmental sustainability planner, who's really helped drive a number of these things to actually come to fruition. The city's acquired more than $800,000 in mobility grants since that plan was adopted. BOGO Bike Share came to life. Other, not maybe as exciting elements, but ordinance updates related to tree replacement and bike parking and electric vehicle charging station requirements that have to be part of new development. So things that are, building towards climate action in text that are coming through in real projects. The parks plan, this slide definitely doesn't do justice to everything that the parks team has accomplished. So, master design plans for the parks, a ton of grant funding as well, nearly, matching the mobility side of things with parks funding since the last plan was adopted. Harding and Martin Road Park, the skate park and Geary Park, Schiffer Park, lots of activity from the Parks Board and tons of new programming as well. So this is just like a small snapshot, but pretty exciting to see all this come to life from a plan. So, 5 years is the general requirement from the state on updating these sorts of plans, and I think from the Parks and Recreation standpoint, requirement from the state. So it's really a good time to check in with the community and have these community-centered planning efforts come to life. It all comes from the community. So that last master plan started momentum for tons of these efforts. Again, the dots don't really do everything justice, but just a snapshot of things going on, from the inclusive and affordability housing plan to doing a downtown waste management plan to the park projects like the skate park and CDBG funded community development block grant funded tree plantings. This planning process happens every 5 years in most communities, but it affects so many projects. So when it came time to start considering the next master plan and the Parks and Recreation plan, staff thought it made sense to pair climate with these two plans in one process. As we quickly found, climate is connected to all of these plans and part of the overall community vision. So, it made sense to consider all these topics together. Also, there's some efficiencies when you're trying to get a partner to help lead this process and work on all these various different things. Some communities, some larger communities do all of these separately and have other processes. We feel like these are intertwined, particularly when it comes to equity as well. So to just touch briefly on the steering committee and selection criteria, this pre-planning process sort of started in March 29th when the city issued a request for proposals for a firm to help guide the community through this process. Obviously we do have community and economic development staff and park staff and others that'll be, working from the city side of things, but it's helpful to have another perspective and help guide the community throughout the process. So at that same time, while that our request for proposals was being reviewed by different firms, staff worked with boards and commissions and other staff to help hold a fun lottery that randomly selected some residents to participate in the steering committee. And so that steering committee at this point has 25 to 27 members that have helped weigh in on the 5 proposals the city received. There was selection criteria that was specifically on the request for proposals related to equity, community engagement, climate action, land use experience, budget, and other items. There were 5 qualified firms that responded. After reviewing all those proposals, the steering committee narrowed those firms to 2 firms based on the selection criteria. And then there were 2 interviews conducted, one with Smith Group and one with Beck and Rader, both firms here in Michigan that have done a lot of land use planning work and more, I would say. So Smith Group's proposal, in the end, it was a tough choice, I think, noted by everybody on the commission, but the majority of the committee did recommend Smith Group for this project. And they have subcontractors with Studio Incognita and Sidewalk Detroit, who will be helping lead community engagement. And that was really one of the strong points that steering committee members mentioned is selecting Smith Group. So I guess I just spoiled this slide, but so the recommendation was for Smith Group with the sub-consultants I mentioned. Some of the things that were stated by the committee members in their decision noted Smith Group to be open to collaboration with the community, innovative, forward-thinking, most actionable and prepared, having a strong stance on climate justice, having a diverse and female-led team, including multimodal portrayal of information for increased accessibility and availability to residents. So very important part, making sure that whatever this plan looks like and however it's put out there for people to participate, it's actually accessible to everyone. And then having exceptional quality for the climate action plan. So, I think the city should be proud. We did receive, like I said, 5, great responses. And so in the end, could only pick one, and Smith Group, stood out for all of these reasons. This is just a snapshot of Smith Group's proposal. It was provided in the city council packet, but just wanted to provide a few quick notes. Should city council approve the contract tonight, staff is looking forward to kicking off this phase 1 understanding process. And so I'd say that's a pretty typical process for any plan, really, is to audit what the community's been doing so far, review that baseline data, whether that be census data or GIS data, permit data, touring the community, then developing that engagement outreach strategy before any actual plans are made, making sure just what is the best way to reach the community. And I think Kara's team presented a good guide for how to best engage the community. So we'll definitely be relying on our communications team, and then working more with the steering committee on helping us guide through this process. So we want to make sure that participation dates and people know when is the soonest that they could start sharing ideas and helping shape this plan. This is just another snapshot with more detail on how staff and steering committee would help provide these next steps at the beginning of the process. But as you can see, it'd be an estimated 12-month process, with many milestones along the way through boards and commissions, community meetings, and others for ways for everyone to provide input. So from a budget perspective, I think the capital improvement plan committee probably was sick of hearing from, CED and the Parks and Recreation team, but, over and over, just every year requesting capital improvement plans to come, to this day. So you'll see both these account numbers, and the contract is for a total of $130,000. It's based on separated by different phases, which is pretty typical for, say, a contract like this. And so, as mentioned, there will be many opportunities for the community to lead and provide feedback. Previous plan did have extensive feedback, including this image of the open house postcard that was set up at the Rust Belt as a fun day to just share ideas and get everyone's feedback. But the bar is always higher. Engagement is not enough, so participation is really what we want. Because this is the community's plan. So residents, business owners, visitors, all of that and more is the goal. The contract notes expectations for Smith Group to lead certain parts of the community participation, and staff will be leading others. So this will be more detailed soon, but in case you saw the proposal, interaction with the wider community as well as steering committee and planning commission being the recommending body. Obviously, they'll be involved, as well as Parks and Recreation Board, the Environmental Sustainability Commission meetings, City Council, of course, and then staff will be doing other outreach to some of the other boards and commissions as well as other opportunities. So I did want to thank the steering committee. I do think some of the members joined this evening, so I appreciate that. We have a great group. I think a wide number of perspectives and opinions between staff and residents. So just want to thank them for working through a sort of a quicker process to get to this point, but really it is mostly just so we can get really started and get the wider community involved going forward. So expect to hear from your committee members throughout the process. They'll be your neighbors, friends, community members, likely bugging you to fill out a survey or come to a meeting. So our hope is that you'll be hearing from more than just staff on this. And then, right now, if you're looking for just initial information, you want to review the older plans that were adopted in 2017, you can go to this page, which is also accessible from the home page. If you go to the home page and then click on current projects, I think it's in the first third of the page, you can check out more information here. This is where we'll be initially posting meetings and things like that. There's also a email sign up form and a place to submit comments. So hope to send a lot of people here throughout the process. But obviously went through a lot in a short amount of time, and I think there was a lot of information in the packet, so definitely want to be available for any questions that the mayor and council have. But thanks for your consideration this evening, and I do know Smith Group is here as well, and they're able to answer questions as well.
Thank you, Justin, for the presentation, and I'm going to ask council to follow up with any questions for more information that they have of you and or the Smith Group. Who'd like to go first?
Through the chair?
Sure.
Justin, how much did we, well, I should preference. So a number of people have reached out to me saying, $130,000, that seems like a lot. Spending on what people are referring to as consultants. It goes way beyond that. I couple of MLUPs, and I know that it goes well beyond quote unquote consultants. But a lot of people are a little sticker shocked by 130,000. Can you let us know how much we spent when we did this 5 years ago? And even if you could tell us how much we spent in, I think 10, wasn't 2010 the last time we did? We did 2010 and then 2017.
Sure. So the 2017 plan, it was the master plan, Parks and Recreation plan, and those market studies. That was a contract not to exceed 140,000. My understanding is that's where the project landed, was that amount. The previous plan, I think, was 2008, and then a lot of the zoning ordinances were updated after that. And so that plan was largely done by Planning Commission volunteers. And so mostly a volunteer effort. It looked like there was some community engagement planning that was done maybe for $10,000 to $11,000 at the time.
Well, and the reason for that is because in 2008, we were going through a financial crisis. And so we really kind of just did a freshen up of the previous plan and tried to do as much as we could with as little resources as possible, because we were making so many cuts within the organization. So that's understandable. But I really wanted to express that, this was, this 130,000, 140,000 is very common. If you go to other communities, larger communities are going to be a little bit more, smaller communities are going to be a little bit less. But all in all, the pricing is within line.
Correct. I think that's a fair assessment. I think that, having a climate action plan is a fairly new thing for Michigan communities as well. So I think that, we are trying to be most efficient as we can with the budget that was approved. But yeah, I think you could easily spend a lot more money on a separate climate action plan, and some larger communities do. But we wanted to be as efficient as possible. So thank you.
Thank you. That's all I had, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Other questions of fact?
Chair, I have just a quick question on the outreach. Do we have a separate budget for that? It looks like we had noted that we'll be handling that internally and doing a couple mailings. Is that something that we should expect at a later time?
I think that, with the community engagement budget as planned, as part of everything, it's sort of baked into everything here. I think that, there will be shared efforts where, like I'm going to meet with the Accessibility Inclusion Commission, things like that. Some of the mailings and things like that are within existing, communication and community and economic development mailing budgets. So I think that, we're prepared to, meet the demand. And like I said, I think the bar is higher, and I think that, we can do that with this plan.
All right, see no other questions from council. We need a motion to proceed.
I move that we approve the contract with Smith Group for $130,000 for the city's master land use plan, Parks and Recreation master plan, and climate action plan as submitted by the planning manager.
Support.
I believe that was moved by Councilman Polika and supported by Councilwoman James. I think. I cannot see you in my frame of view here, so yes. One with voice.
That is correct, Mayor.
Okay, so are there any comments at this time from council?
I'll just chime in briefly through the chair. I had the opportunity to serve on the Master Land Use Plan Steering Committee in 2016 through 2017. And the reason I point that out is because having gone through that process, it's helped me, notice and understand how much the plan really shapes staff work, policy work. It really sets the framework for, for the next 5 years of this body, along with the strategic plan and other policy documents. But in terms of, how we approach our zoning and our land use and now our climate action, folding together Parks and Rec. Having gone through this, I'm confident that investment in a well-crafted plan with vibrant community engagement will be an asset for the organization.
I totally agree with you, and you took some words out of my mouth. I just wanted to say that I think, just to reinforce that these plans are required by law to do, state law enabling, and that we have to do this. And I was around in 2008. I was not on council yet, but I do know the planning commissioners at that time donated their time to rewrite the master plan. And on top of that 10,000, and it took them almost like 2 years to complete. And that's what happens when you ask volunteers to do official city business, and they just don't have the capacity to do it. And I honestly don't think we would have anybody who would want to be on the planning commission if we made them do all this work that we hire experts to do. So this is why we hire experts. And while people call them consultants, I call them experts in adding on capacity that the city doesn't have to do on our own. So we need this type of partnerships with firms to produce these legally binding documents that cities have to produce in order to get grant money, get federal money, get state money, get philanthropic money. So if we don't do them, we don't get any of that money if we even wanted to apply. So this is about showing that a city has a plan for its investment and that the council priorities are behind it and the policy decisions are driving it and that everything is in alignment. So I was worried that I wasn't able to give input on the selection process because I'm a candidate and candidates aren't allowed to be on our committee, but I trust and believe in the 27 people who thoroughly vetted all the proposals, which was over 200 pages of documents, that they chose the right partner for us to move us in the direction where we need to go and deliver the best product, quality documents for our community and engagement processes for the money that we can afford. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lee Smay?
Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski?
Yes.
Councilmember Polika?
Yes.
And Mayor Piana?
Yes. All right. That concludes our regular agenda items. And we're moving on to call to council. And taking it away is our city manager, Joe, who will lead us through the updates from each department. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. We will be concise. With the awareness of the storm, we may lose power or internet at any time.
I forgot one thing. Thank you, Justin, for the presentation, and thank you, Smith Group, for being here. I am so sorry to have not said that before I moved on. Thanks.
Thanks, Mayor and Council.
First, leading off is an announcement from City Clerk Marty McGrath.
Thank you, Joe. I just wanted to announce that there are a number of openings for city boards and commissions right now, and we will be reopening that application process starting on July 1st. We have multiple vacancies on a few boards and some singular ones. You can find those by going to our boards and commissions page. And again, those will open up on July 1st. And then also one reminder about folks who are signing petitions right now. So as folks are circulating petitions, keep in mind that you can only sign petitions for the number of candidates who will be on the ballot. So in this case, that's 1 mayoral position and 2 council. If, say, you sign 3 council petitions, that removes your name from all 3 of those. And so it's really important to be cognizant to not sign for more offices than there are on the ballot this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Next, we have an update from Finance Director Cheryl Johnson.
Thanks, Joe. Hi again, Mayor and Council. Just a couple quick things. Tax bills are hitting the mail in the next couple of days. Again, the tax bills are coming separately than the coupons. They might take a little bit longer. We all know that the mail is experiencing employee shortages and things like that, so there may be some delays. But as always, if you don't get your tax bill or your coupons, you can come up to the city or you can call the city and we can reprint them for you. I would ask that you give it a week or so before you know that you don't have them, so we're not inundated with a bunch of people and then they get them the next day in the mail just because it's a little slow. 2 separate mailings, your tax bill and your coupons. We are also reinstating, as Greg and Joe mentioned earlier, the credit card fees July 1. We will also be reinstating the penalties for late water bills July 1 as well. And sorry if I'm stealing your thunder again, Joe, but it's kind of important. We will be closed July 5th, Monday, in observance of the holiday. So if you do get your tax bill and you want to pay it right away, you can either pay it online, or you can drop it in the Dropbox outside of City Hall, or you can come and see us on July 6th. That's all the finance department has.
Thank you, Cheryl. You did steal my thunder, but that is apropos given the weather. Captain Spellman is here to give an update from the police department on behalf of Chief Emmy. Captain.
Thank you, Joe. I just have 2 items tonight. The first one would be Chief Emmy is hosting his second street corner roundtable this year. It's going to be tomorrow at 6 p.m. Our first location will be East Breckenridge and Leland. And then at 7 p.m., we're going to move over to West Hazelhurst and Pinecrest. So come all. We had a great turnout last time, and we're looking forward to tomorrow. That's if the rain holds off. So if it does rain, we will have to reschedule. We'll let you know about that. The second is with the upcoming holiday, July 4th coming, we just want to remind people about the fireworks ordinance. So starting tomorrow, June 29th, fireworks will be allowed. The daily hours will be 11 a.m. to 11:45 p.m. And that will be through July 4th. Legal fireworks in Michigan consist of novelties, low impact, and consumer grade fireworks. A simple Google image search will help you identify these. If you have any questions, please feel free to call the police department. And just as a friendly reminder, fireworks are prohibited on public property. So don't light them off in the streets or the sidewalks or the parks. Please use your private property and use caution. Fireworks are dangerous. We want everybody to enjoy the holidays safely. So with that, we wish everybody a happy 4th of July. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Captain. And that really leads us to a segue. We have a triple threat to talk about 2 contemporary topics, the stormwater and water issues that we're likely all experiencing as a region. And we're going to continue the firework conversation with Chief and Kara. So first, leading off on water and stormwater, Dan, can you talk a little bit about the role DPW is playing right now and what you're seeing from your end with infrastructure?
Absolutely. Good night, everyone. So as we know, here in Michigan, since we're so blessed to have high temps and high humidity almost every day throughout the summer, that there's always a chance of a thunderstorm. And we have been able to experience large rain events over the past few years. And those are going to continue to happen with the climate change that we have been experiencing. So as we know, over the weekend, other communities experienced significant rainfall events on Friday, where you saw, Grosse Pointe, Bloomfield, 6 inches of rain in a day. We were lucky enough to only get about 2 inches of rain over the day, and that did not overwhelm our system and cause flooding, basement backups, and so on. So one thing to keep in mind is that if you do see your street kind of backing up, there's some standing water on there, it's allowing the catch basins to catch up. There could be debris on the catch basins that is restricting the flow, or we could be purposely restricting the flow to keep additional water out of the system. So while it may not be nice to look at, it's also not a bad thing to have water on the street. And just keep that in mind. Water on the street is better than water in the basements. So there is some intention with that. But if you are experiencing flooding on the street, contact the DPW. If it is after hours, non-emergency dispatch. With the larger storm events also come down limbs. And if you do have a limb that is down, whether it's a city tree or a private tree that's blocking the sidewalk, blocking the road, please contact the DPW or police non-emergency line, and we'll get a crew out to address that. But if it is on a power line, do not go near that tree. Contact the fire department. They will rope off the area. In addition to, make sure that you are looking around at where that power line may be laying on. So if you have a chain link fence, do not touch that chain link fence. That could be electrified. or something of that nature. So, just be aware, contact the fire department or contact the DPW. We'll reach out to DTE and get that process started. Additionally, projects are moving along as forward. This past week, they could be looking a little bit slower than normal, and that's just with the weather. We're, working to keep our FerndalePaving.com website and schedule updated as soon as we possibly can. And in addition to, with the city being closed down on July 5th, recycling and waste services will be postponed for a day. So if your trash day is typically on Monday, that will move to Tuesday. And if you're a Friday date, you will put your trash and recycling out on Saturday. And if you have any questions, please contact the DPW. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. And that also, we're going to bring in Chief Teresa Robinson to talk a little bit about your subject. And then, and Chief, if you could also speak to the subject of fireworks and anything else from your department.
Yeah, absolutely. Good night, everybody. So I'll just expand a little bit on what Captain Spellman and Dan Antosik already touched on a little bit, and getting into this time of year, and we can have it in the winter sometimes too, but right now with the severe weather, we really want to be conscious about wires down, and it is kind of a hidden hazard, and sometimes people aren't sure. They think it might be a cable wire down or whatever. Don't go investigate yourself. Go ahead and just call us, call 911. We will come out as the fire department. We will identify what type of line it is and make the appropriate calls to get the action. And like Dan said, be really careful of what that might be touching. So it's just best to stay away. Don't try to get close, try to look, because with the ground wet too, the electricity can travel through the ground. So it's not even a matter of not contacting the wire, just that you get a certain proximity of it, you can be affected by that electricity. So keep everybody back, keep everybody safe. And with that, with the trees going down too, a lot of times trees, they're full of leaves now. You can't see what's coming down or hidden with that tree. So again, if a tree comes down, feel free to go ahead and call 911. We'll come out and we'll investigate as the fire department, identify if it's just a tree or if there are any other hazards that are affected by, with the tree, and we'll make the appropriate calls and make the area safe for everybody. So we're here for you. So go ahead and use this as a resource on that. As far as the flooding, like Dan said, yes, there's a lot of reasons sometimes where we want the water to stay on the roadway, but we also want to have the safety so we don't get ourselves into a situation where we're coming to rescue you out of the water. So if you come to a road that has water on the roadway, a good key thing you can do is look to the side of the road. And if you can no longer see the curb, then you don't really have an indication of how deep that water is. If you can still see the curb, then you know it's only a matter of a few inches and you can safely drive through it. So if you can't see the curb anymore, don't try to drive through that water because it may be too deep and you end up like the cars in the pictures on I-94. And we don't want that. A couple of things I want to hit that are really important is fireworks. Captain Spellman talked about it, and while they're beautiful, they're a lot of fun, we all enjoy them. They truly are hazardous and dangerous, so I really, really want to encourage our citizens to not let children light off fireworks. I know sometimes we think that our kids are old enough, responsible enough, but really we want to ensure because they are explosive, they are dangerous, and unfortunately I've seen some of the negative outcomes of that. So we want to make sure it's always supervised and always make sure we're staying to the ones that are legal for the area, and ensure that if we are lighting them off ourselves, we know how to properly and safely do so. If you ever light off fireworks, pay attention to where those fireworks are going. If they're landing on roofs, not shooting off properly, again, make sure that that is not igniting a roof on fire or starting another fire. So again, use caution when you're doing that. And the final thing I want to point out is, it's really important, is we've had a few house fires in the last few months here in the Ferndale community and neighboring areas. And we've really been fortunate, and I'm truly thankful that the outcomes were what they were, because a couple of these houses had no working smoke detectors. So it is truly fortunate the occupants of those houses got out not only alive, but with minor to no injuries, because typically in those situations, especially with the time of day, there's much higher probability that could have been a fatal house fire. And we do not want that to happen in our community. So I'm strongly urging people, please, please, please put smoke detectors in your house. Our fire department does have a program where we will come out and do a home safety inspection on your home at no cost to you, where we will actually spend an hour with you in your home and walk through your home and talk about the different hazards and dangers and give you a talk and help you with those smoke detectors. So please take advantage of that service. We really want to keep our community safe. So with that said, everybody have a safe holiday and happy summer. We will see you guys out and about on the community events, so come see us.
Thank you.
Through the chair, could I ask the fire chief a question?
Sure.
Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought we also had a program that if someone couldn't afford fire detectors, that we would actually install them. We have fire detectors that we could install if someone couldn't afford them. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there are different programs, and again, some of those come through donations through different programs, different things, but yeah, we do try to keep a certain number of smoke detectors available, so if somebody is unable to afford that, or it creates a hardship on them, we don't want them to not have that safety feature in their homes. It truly is a life safety piece of equipment. With that said, I do also want to stress that if you are a renter, it is your landlord's responsibility to ensure those are in the home or the apartment that you're renting. So if you are a renter and you feel like you don't have adequate or you don't have any smoke detectors, you need to go to your landlord first, because it is their responsibility to ensure those are in the home or the apartment. If you are the homeowner, we can assist you.
And on that point, it doesn't matter if you're the renter or the homeowner. If you're not sure as a renter that the fire detector is working properly, you will still go out to that renter's residence.
Absolutely. So if you are renting in the city of Ferndale, maybe whether an apartment or a home, you can still schedule a home safety inspection with us, and we will come and we go over things from hazards in the kitchen to different things, talking about the smoke detectors. There's a lot of education. It's about 1 hour, and we go through a lot of things that people don't really understand or don't know about the hidden hazards in their homes. So yeah, renter or homeowner, that service is available to you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, and our final announcement is from the communications director, who is involved with all things fireworks and stormwater and storm drain. Now, Kara, can you just talk a little bit about the communications pieces and where residents should go for resources?
Absolutely. So first, to wrap up some of what Dana and Tosic said about flooding and what to do in the case of storms and different kinds of emergencies. All that information he gave us was great, and we actually did a social story on our Facebook page on Friday afternoon that covers a lot of that information in kind of an easy to digest, easy to share sort of way. So if you head to our Facebook page, if you're not a follower, it's just ferndale.michigan, and you'll find that story, find some information, find numbers for who to call or where to go in the case of certain kinds of, for example, flooding, trees down, things like that. So that's on our Facebook page. Fireworks is one of our most asked about subjects this time of year. I will confirm that per Michigan state law, fireworks are allowed, the 29th through July 4th until 11:45 p.m. every day. So unfortunately, for people who are not fans of fireworks, that's all this week, starting tomorrow and going through Sunday, which is July 4th, until 11:45 p.m. So if you hear noises before that time, please don't call the police department or anything like that. It is legal. If you're experiencing significant fireworks issues after midnight, then please call police non-emergency. Please do not call 911 for fireworks. And the information for the hours of fireworks and where to go for help and all that kind of stuff will be on the city's homepage. Should be right now, but we're having some trouble getting it uploaded. So by later tonight for sure, and throughout the rest of the week. And one more quick thing. This is a weird year because the 4th is falling on a Sunday. Garbage and recycling actually will not be impacted next week. This is one of the rare holidays in which it's not. We call and confirm that. So garbage, if it normally goes out on Monday, it will still go out on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara, and most staff have stolen mine. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Most staff stole my thunder tonight. But I would just like to wish staff a happy new fiscal year. Thank you for a great year of work. You've done well. So these fireworks are just for, not only for the 4th of July, but also for a new fiscal year. So happy new year. Great job to everybody. My gratitude.
Thank you for all those updates and the important ones that are gonna come this week that what our residents want to know about with the holiday and being safe. All right, on to call to council. I believe I started with Mayor Pro Tem last night, so I'm going to start with Councilwoman Mikulski.
Mayor, I have nothing additional tonight.
Thank you. Councilwoman Polka.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a couple of things. The first thing I want to have a further conversation on this, but on Juneteenth, I noticed a number of people talking about people letting off fireworks, and there was this discussion of, well, it's not a recognized holiday for fireworks, but it's if we need to investigate further, if we need to add Juneteenth to our policy, because it is a federal holiday, to allow people to set off fireworks if they wish. That's probably a conversation that we need to have, but I did want to bring that up so that at a future council meeting we can have that discussion. The next thing I want to announce is that on Sunday, July 11th, will be the next patio dance party with music on Como's patio. The last event was really a success for the LGBTQ nonprofits. Ferndale Pride actually benefited from that event. I'm not sure which organization, it may be Affirmations or Michigan Equality that may be benefiting from this one. But that'll be happening on the 11th, and from 3 to 9 p.m. So, it's going to be a little loud in the downtown that day. The next thing I wanted to mention without being political, but I did submit my petitions today to be on the November ballot for councilman. And the last thing I want to do is today is the 52nd anniversary of the Stonewall Rebellion. And I just want to wish everybody happy Pride. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Polka. Next, let's go to Councilwoman James.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just recap and elaborate a little bit on what I mentioned right after the anti-racism and equity update. So as you may recall, in April, I hosted a community conversation about stormwater and flooding, which has all been on our minds lately. The snicker is a nervous, anxious snicker because this topic the stormwater topic is personal and one that induces anxiety. But at any rate, in a similar style as that previous community discussion, next week I'll be talking about anti-racism and doing a little bit of a deeper dive than we had time for tonight. That'll be next Thursday at 7 o'clock at Affirmations. Staff can go a little bit deeper and address some of the questions and requests for follow-up that were raised tonight. Just a reminder to folks that we cannot have a quorum of council members. So there can only be 2 of us present at that meeting. However, I'm going to do my best to set up a tripod and live stream the event on Facebook Live on my Ferndale Council Member Kat Brunner James page on Facebook, which I believe will then be available for review at a later date. I don't think you have to tune in live to hear it. I believe you can go back and listen to it and view it later, because I do want to make it accessible to other council members as well as other members of the community. That's it for me tonight.
I wanted to ask, I believe we're co-hosting that event as a partner on that, so I will be the council person at the meeting. Sorry, other council members. We'll already have 2 present. So, I'm sorry, was there anything else you wanted to mention?
That's it for me.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May.
So I just want to take the opportunity to thank everyone who came out on Saturday for the Juneteenth celebration. I really appreciated your support, and city staff, and to our partnerships with the schools and rural township. The library came through big time, thank you. And to everyone else involved, it was a good event, and I was really proud to have been a part of it. I also want to take this opportunity to let you all know that the Ferndale Historical Museum, we had our meeting this past Thursday in person, and I wanted to extend a thanks and a gratitude of thanks from the committee, because they want to thank the city for being so supportive with helping with their efforts as far as maintaining that building and all of the support that that the city has given, particularly DPW. So they really wanted me to send out a thank you for that, and I wanted to thank you also for supporting that small little organization, but they have just a myriad of history for our city, and I just want to thank you for your support. And with that being said, happy 4th of July, everyone, and I have nothing else tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And I just have a couple things tonight. First is on the flooding. If residents do unfortunately experience flooding with rains that come in the next few weeks, just let you know that the city's been through this before. We know and have a process and procedures to support you. I'm really hoping that we avoid the flooding that is being experienced around the region. We've been there, we've been in their shoes. So my heart goes out to Hamtramck and the residents of Detroit and Dearborn and the other communities impacted by these intense rains related to climate change. On a good note, I wanted to announce my State of the City, which is going to be Tuesday, July 13th, starting at 6 o'clock at Affirmations. They are hosting the event this year for the State of the City. And it is also going to be included as the Volunteer Appreciation Night for all our boards and commissioners. 6 o'clock sort of networking, 7 o'clock speech, and with a reception afterwards. And I invite council to join me and support the city and where we're going, sort of our priorities, progress, and the people who've made it happen. And then finally, I just wanted to talk about the Woodward Improvement Project. I know it's being heavily debated online right now, but we're sort of in this waiting period with the big grant that council approved moving forward with to apply from SEMCOG with the Transportation Alternatives Program grant. And mid-July is when we're told that we're supposed to hear whether or not we get the full amount, half the amount, or no amount. And from there, if we do get money, the community, the city will be engaging the community on what's next and what's possible, and doing significant engagement with the community going forward. But I do want to say that the city usually has to follow all these appropriate engagement processes, and unfortunately, Facebook polls conducted by residents not involved with the city aren't that they give some insights, but it's not the only way that we take a look at how a project is being supported by the community. So I've been taking a lot of walks with people and talking with people one-on-one, and listening to their thoughts and ideas and concerns related to this project. And that's what I'll do moving forward. And if anybody wants to take a walk with me, that still stands. That offer's been going since February. I come to your house, we walk for an hour, we talk about anything you want, and of course, this Woodward improvement project is on the table. If that is something that someone wants to take me up on. And then with that, I just wish everybody a happy 4th of July and a safe one. We all need some joy and fun in our lives, and everybody be safe. And with that, it is 9:39, and this meeting is concluded. Take care, everybody. Happy
Good evening.
Re-